Yo guys, I'm Yellow, a Norwegian hardcore PC gamer, and today I figured that we should talk about what stands to play in CS and the importance of swapping it up so you don't become too stale of a player. That can actually be quite the demise if you keep on doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. Now quickly about the game, as always, this is on my second account, had a lot of fun time on Dust 2 right here. A pretty old game, so it's the old style of replay, so enjoy. Even though again, you know, the smoke bug is still there. It never disappears apparently because Valve don't want to do that for some dumb reason. But yeah, anyway, so the subject at hand is essentially about understanding and learning the importance of being a flexible player, because if you're not, you might and will get stuck in scenarios that you would never like to be in. Now, whenever I really play matchmaking, I don't take the game too seriously, regardless if I hit skill shots, unskilled shots, or if I successfully execute very dumb plays like that. For example, you jump down from the metal box and then get a couple of kills by spraying into the tunnel. That is pretty uncalled for, and you couldn't probably not accurately replicate that every single time. However, the importance of having fun with the game and experimenting so that you can learn something new about the game is nothing to route out if you want to get better at the game per se, alright? It's called the pug style of how to play CS, because it will, you know, just not be serious, in which you might or will learn new things about how to play the game. Now that does not always have to be the case. Obviously some scenarios will never retake, or rather it will never happen again, so you can't reliably depend on it in the future. Naturally, that is something that I almost take for granted, even though again I do take a lot of dumb positions. But when you then finally find something that is incredibly reliable and you can use that again and again and again, now suddenly you guys an incredibly new lethal thing up your sleeve that you can use to demolish your enemies, in which is why people tend to do these crazy things here and there, even though again it won't always work. Now, in terms of how important it is to swap up your stance as a player overall, this is actually like incredibly important to take a look at. So let's take a look at the old Danish lineup, which currently is in Astralis. In the past, they used to be Dignitas in the distant past, and then we had them in the TSM org. Now they're in their own, but in the past at least, and currently I guess to a certain lower degree, they were tending to play a little bit too defensive and passive, and thus supportive, which thus means that you don't really have that extra edge that is required with the cleverfulness of how to play CS, which will allow you to break up maps and take control and maintain control against whatever the enemies might do. Now, only being support players then, it won't be a bad thing, but it just won't give you the edge, thus kind of sort of proving that you need to swap things up if you want to be a more reliable player. A more player-based scenario is actually going to be Scream. I figured I would also bring up. The guy only goes for headshots, and it seems like he's neglecting the torso still, even though again he's obviously gotten a little bit better, even though again it doesn't really seem to amount to much, because he takes gunfights a little bit too based upon hitting an accurate headshot, which does not actually technically help you out in more technical scenarios. Now, we've seen examples of that in the past. I'm not really gonna, you know, be too mad and pissed about the matter of fact that he could be a better asset towards the game. However, the point here though to keep in mind is that Counter-Strike got so many mechanics surrounding the entire body, tagging enemies, and the reliability of being able to spray down enemies just by aiming at the middle center torso of enemies, in which routing that out, neglecting that, is obviously gonna make you a less efficient of a player, regardless if you want to go for headshots or not. In the past, it used to be more viable to go for headshots instead. Now, on the other hand, such is sadly not the case, so what you gotta do is to, you know, just utilize more of the mechanics of the game. Thus, sort of to speak, again, proving that, yes, just being set in one way, it can actually harm you more than not. An example that is a little bit more advanced and annoying to understand, obviously because it's at the highest level of the game, would literally be to point out Shroud, by the way, as well, but not in a streaming scenario, rather a professional scenario. Whenever he's playing against professional players, he know, and he thus does not overextend and waste himself, but he know that if he would go out there and do something overly rash that might be timed in a untimely manner, per se, he's gonna get his ass wrecked, essentially, because when you're playing against the world elite of players that has been playing this game for, you know, 5, 10, 15 years, obviously it's not gonna be easy, as I here execute kills, or at least try through the smoke bug again, because it desyncs. It's very annoying. But anyways, the case with Shroud is kind of annoying, because he's playing the game not aggressive enough, but it's almost based upon not being able to have the skill to accurately and convincingly go out there and take on gunfights. But it's not even that, because he's not supposed to be the entry fragger, for example. It's almost a little bit more about how he is not able to depend on himself in a couple of scenarios when he is supposed to be able to break up stuff and hold enemies off and clean up sites and such things, you know, because normally he's supposed to enter sites after Freakazoid, which is supposed to be the entry fragger, at least in the framework of that team currently as I'm making this video, right? So what we can take from that, at least then, is that, yeah, just having that little edge, regardless of how type of metagame you're playing the game at, like, just having that single little edge towards being able to execute stuff better, holding stuff better, being able to, you know, be a little bit more defensive. Actually, I don't have an example of that, so that could be very interesting to look into in the future. But anyways, you probably get my point. So don't just play Counter-Strike in your set ways. Sometimes just break loose. It's a game. If you're playing matchmaking and you got somebody that are overly serious in your game, that might actually be a slight side issue. But regardless, it's a game. If you don't experiment, have fun, play overly defensive, overly aggressive, play with your teammates and such things, you'll never really learn these things, and eventually you won't be able to hit those crazy shots, get that dependable aim, being able to take those very accurate, skillfully taken gunfights, and so on and so on. I mean, the list goes on towards things that you can learn in this game after all, so routing all of those things out is obviously going to make you less of a player, thus meaning that you should go on there and see if you can make the opposite ever happen. Even though, again, you know, everything has to be taken with a grain of salt, because Counter-Strike require a lot of practice, but with practice comes perfect. And so here are 2 videos if you people want to get better at the game. That is this channel's speciality. At the 50k subscriber mark, I'll make a little Q&A video, by the way, so look out for that. Yeah, if you want to support me and my broke ass, we got the Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch links in the description below. You can follow those to support me. And that is aside, by the way, from the Patreon and the t-shirt purchasements, so do as you please. Anyways, thanks for watching, thanks for the support, have a nice day, and don't get beastified when you play.